Kayla, the Booktube Turtle. This is my 5th episode in my series, The Adventures of Booktube. So this is long overdue. I think I originally planned for this topic to go up like late August, early September, and today is September 22nd, but this was one of the pre-filmed videos I did in preparation for school starting that got messed up, so this is me refilming it. So I'm going to be talking about my book review process, and there's kind of like a few different things that make up that. I'm going to be talking about like my overall process, my note-taking process, and the process I go through when I actually rate a book. And before I get started, I just want to say that this is my own personal way of doing this. So like you might have a method that's different, or will eventually like develop a method that's just your own, which is perfectly fine. Like my methods are probably going to change over time. This is kind of just what I'm doing right now. So one of the first things I do, like before I even start reading the book, is I decide then if I'm going to do a review or a discussion. Because I look at those as two different things. So I see a review as like a spoiler-free review, where it's a shorter video where I just kind of talk about what the book is and it doesn't have any spoilers in it. And then for a discussion, I usually start out with a short non-spoiler review, and then I move into the discussion all in that same video. And in the discussion, it goes a lot more in depth with like all of my thoughts and spoilery discussion. So I don't typically take notes with reviews because I'm not going to be going in depth about everything that happens, but I do with discussions. So I'm going to start out by talking about reviews. So like I said, this applies to both a spoiler-free video and like the non-spoilery section of a discussion video. Personally, I do think it's a good idea to include like a non-spoilery section at the beginning of a discussion video, just because if someone hasn't read the book, they can still watch like that little part and figure out what the book is about, and if they want to read it, and they don't have to worry about being spoiled. So there's always certain things I try to include when I'm doing a review. Obviously, you know, you want to like give the title and the author and like the basic things like that. You want to say if it's part of a series and which book in the series it is, because if somebody doesn't know anything about it, they might not know. So it's good to just cover all your bases. You also want to show what the book looks like if possible. Like if you actually have it, you know, hold it up. Like I get a lot of books from the library, so sometimes when I film my videos, the book has already gone back, so I just get like a picture from the internet and put it on the screen. So that's an option too if you don't actually like have the book. I also usually say like what I would rate the book. I usually go off of like Goodreads, so like out of 5 stars. For a while I was trying to do like a percentage thing, but that was too complicated. I never knew what to do. So I'm just sticking to the 5 stars now. You also obviously want to give a brief summary, you know, explain what the book is about. Just be careful not to don't give away spoilers. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then, you know, just give your general thoughts. But again, keep it general, no spoilers, because the point of this is that it doesn't have spoilers. You could maybe talk about what you liked and maybe some of the things you didn't like, but in a vague way. As far as how to keep spoilers out of your review, I'd say the main thing is just to be conscious of what you're saying or what you're going to say. Like if you plan ahead of time, like I do with my reviews and stuff, I plan kind of what I want to talk about. So just being conscious of that and making sure you're not moving more into a discussion than just the review, and just keeping it to the basics, like what I already said above to include, you know, and not going too far in depth, because the more in depth you get, the more likely it is you're going to accidentally say something spoilery. Though of course, you know, there's always editing, so if you do say something, you can always cut it out later, like it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, but for a review, I mean, it's more about, or at least the way I see it, it's more about how you perceived the book than like maybe going into things that were like actually in the book. So for the books that I know I'm going to do a full discussion on, I do take notes. So now I'm going to go over my note-taking process. I have a notebook similar to this one. It's not this one because my actual book review notebook is at college, because I didn't think to bring it home this weekend. But basically, it's just a, you know, notebook like that. And like on the outside, I like every time I start taking notes on a new book, I write the title. And then like when I start on a new page, and I write the title of the book really big at the top. And then it's really just a bulleted list. Anything that jumps out to me while I'm reading that seems important, you know, I write it down. And I write the page number in the margin next to it. That way if I need to go look it back up, I know where to find it. But it's really going to depend on what you want to focus on in your discussion and how good you are at remembering things. Like, I'm usually pretty good at remembering like the plot points and things, so my notes are more based on my reactions to the plot points and the character things that happen in the story. Like, it'll be like my reactions to like events. If it's an intense reaction, like emotions play a huge part in like what gets written down. If I get like really angry about something, or something happens, like a character dies and I'm just like devastated, then I'm just like scribbling things across the page. Common things I tend to write are like no over and over again. I'm just like no 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 no, or like I can't breathe because I'll be like hyperventilating while I'm reading, and I'm just like if I'm like really worked up about something, or if I'm like really shocked about something, or like some plot twist I didn't see coming, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I'm like writing it down because it helps me when I go and look back at it, remember, oh yeah, this happened, and it's important because it had this big impact on me, obviously, because I can't breathe. I also like to write down, like as I'm going, any theories or predictions that pop into my head. And I really like that because sometimes, like if I'm right, I can go back and be like, look, I called that on this page. I also love to write down quotes from books, and this can be anything from like funny things that characters say to like a line that's just really like I relate, which has really helped with like my bookstagram that I've had going for a while, because I do like my quotes every Sunday. Also, notes about characters. I usually, like when a character comes in, I usually write if I like them or not. You know, there's sometimes I just get so angry at characters that I'm just like, I hate this character. And I gotta make note of it because I can't stand them. Or like if a character does something sketchy and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you up to? I'm making note of it. I also include, like, as I'm going along, overall aspects that I like or don't like. So if there's something that happens and I'm like, okay, I really liked how that was done, then, you know, I make a note of that. Or if I'm like, that kind of irritates me, I make note of that too. So I don't know, you could really write down whatever you want, whatever's gonna help you make your video later on. It's really whatever works best for you and what you want to focus on when you do your video. For the actual discussion video, I will go over my notes and make a Word document of like the specific things I want to talk about, because like I don't talk about every single thing I write down, because then my discussion videos would be forever long. Sometimes I fill up pages. Oh my gosh. I think Lord of Shadows was like 6 pages, and I didn't think I could get past that because I'm like, that's a lot. And that book was huge too. But then the third Mara Dyer book, which I haven't filmed a discussion for yet, I need to get on that. Anyway, that I think I had like 8 pages of notes, because like I was constantly like, what is happening right now? And just, oh my gosh, it was non-stop. If you haven't read the Mara Dyer trilogy, seriously consider reading it. It's great. I love it. Okay, so as I said, even with my discussion videos, I have the spoiler-free review at the beginning, and then it's very important to make sure at some point in your video, somehow, you make it clear that you are moving on from your spoiler-free section to your discussion section. Like, I usually say it where I'm like, okay, you know, bye if you haven't read this book yet. And then I have like a slide that comes up that says spoilers ahead. So it is very clear and that I'm about to give spoilers, and you know, if somebody continues past that point, that's on them. So then I move into like the discussion section. I'm still not good at these discussions. Like, I'm trying to get better, but it's kind of a mess. Usually I'm all over the place. Like, I feel all over the place. Like, I feel like I jump around between sections of the book, and I try to go like chronologically, or at least in an order that makes sense. But it doesn't usually end up happening that way. So we'll see if I ever figure out a good method for that later. Maybe I can do like an update video. So as far as rating books, this is kind of difficult for me because before BookTube, I never rated books. You know, I mean, I would always be like, oh, I really, really loved that. Or I was like, oh, you know, that was okay. You know, that kind of thing. But I never really gave much thought to it. But then I got Goodreads a little before BookTube. Before I joined BookTube. Like, I've been watching BookTube for a while. But before I actually started this channel. And so I started rating books then. But then when I actually joined BookTube, I started being more, like, critical, I guess. Because I don't want to be too easy on the books when I rate them. You know, I don't want to give everything 5 stars. Because a lot of times too, like when I finish a book, I'm just like, that was the best thing ever. Because I'm kind of like still riding the high from finishing it. But then it kind of like settles in my mind after a few days and I'm like, was it really 5 stars? I've gone back and changed my ratings before because I'm like, I might want to put that a little lower. I try to take several things into account. One of the biggest ones obviously is enjoyment. You know, did I actually enjoy this book and how much? I also like to think about the actual writing of the book. Like, was the book itself quality from an objective point of view? I try to think, you know, take like the plot and the characters into account and just the things like that. Because sometimes there are books that are well written. I just don't personally like them because they're just not my thing, if that makes sense. So I do try to take multiple things into account. But as of right now, I'd say I rate books 5 stars if they are like the best thing ever after. So yeah, 5-star books. I loved them. They blew my mind. They're definitely something I would read again. 4 stars, I'd probably say like I enjoyed reading this. I've been rating a lot of more books 4 stars recently because it's like I enjoyed reading it and I had fun reading it, but it's not necessarily something I'm gonna go buy so I can own it myself or something I would necessarily read again, but I still, you know, I still enjoyed it. 3 stars, I would say it was an okay book. You know, I wasn't really attached to the story or the characters all that much, but I wasn't like hating it while I was reading it, if that makes sense. I've never rated anything a 2 or a 1 star yet because, well, I don't know. I don't rate books if I DNF them. I've only DNF'd 2 books. I don't know. I don't feel like if I didn't finish the book, I don't have enough knowledge of the book to rate it. So I've never rated anything a 2 or 1 star, but I feel like those would be like if I just absolutely hated the book and for some reason read all the way through it. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope this was helpful. I'm not sure if it actually was. I don't know. I like tried to give advice for how to do book reviews and book discussions, but it's so hard because it's, you know, is my current personal way of doing things. You know, I haven't been here that long. I haven't been doing reviews for that long. I don't have very many reviews up / discussions. So, you know, I don't know that much about it either. I'm just kind of going for it and just doing whatever I think I should be doing in the moment. I don't know. But if you have any additional questions that I didn't cover in this video, just leave them in the comments below and I'll answer them as best as I can. And like I said, my process is probably going to change, you know, as I learn new things and figure things out. So, I mean, I don't know. I might eventually make like an updated video if I feel like I have a more concrete process, because I feel like right now it's kind of all over the place, but like it works for me. So you just kind of have to find like what works best for you and kind of play around with a few different things. And the next episode in this series is going to be about time management. I'm going to talk about schedules and balancing your booktube life with the other aspects of your life. I'm pretty excited about it because that's been a real struggle since school has started again. So I'm really glad I held off on this topic until after school started, because it would have been totally different if I was still on summer break. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Again, if you have questions, please ask them down in the comments and I will answer. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!